The emperor decreed that the Minister of Rites should select a maiden to wed. The eunuch tutor to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Father nearly spat blood, and my sisters' faces turned ashen. Only I stepped forward. I will go. Having died once before, I knew this was no mere eunuch. This was the future lord of 9,000 years, unfathomable wealth and power. Later, rubbing my aching waist, I wept silently. It turned out the heavens poured not only riches, but also the 9,000 years virility. Main text: an imperial decree reached the Minister of Rites' residence. The Minister of Rites, Meng, is commanded to select a daughter to be bestowed upon the eunuch Shui Yao. The wedding shall be held without delay. Father stared at the edict, his eyes bulging with fury. Mother and the concubines nearly fainted. My sisters were in a panic, weeping like pear blossoms in the rain. Only I remained calm and composed. I stepped forward, took the edict from Father's hands, and softly said, "I'll take it." The room fell silent, so quiet you could hear a pin drop. All eyes turned to me, filled with astonishment, confusion, and suspicion. Indeed. The daughter of a distinguished minister, even if only a concubine's child, should easily marry a noble young master. No one understood why I would willingly leap into the fire. Yet no one objected. I gave a self-mocking chuckle, clenching the imperial decree in my hand. I let the memories run wild. In my previous life, it was my third sister, Meng, who had been ordered by our father to marry the eunuch Shui Yao. Meng was willful and insolent, and after the marriage, she only grew worse, humiliating Shui Yao in public and private. In the end, the entire Ministry of Rites household became locked in a bitter, irreconcilable feud with Shui Yao. After the new emperor ascended the throne, Shui Yao rose overnight to become the dreaded lord of 9,000 years. The men of the Ministry of Revenue were executed, the women exiled. Overnight ruin. My mother, convalescing in bed, heard the news of my betrothal to Shui Yao and knocked over her medicine bowl. She struggled to sit up, determined to plead with father to change his mind. I gently pressed mother back onto the bed, shaking my head. "Mother, my eldest sister is already betrothed. My third sister has a fiery temper and would only bring trouble to the Meng household. As for Shui Yao, though he is a eunuch, his position by the crown prince's side suggests he possesses some skill. I've heard he is quite handsome too. Rest assured, mother, I will manage well." Mother stared blankly for a long moment before reaching out tremulously to pull me close against her chest. Her mournful sobs echoed in my ear, filling my heart with bitter sorrow. Though I knew this was impossible, I had no choice but to proceed. In my previous life, I learned by chance that father had originally intended to send me to the palace. Only after mother knelt all night did they substitute Meng, born to concubine Zhao, to take my place. Later, mother died suddenly of illness, also at the hands of concubine Zhao. So, though I cannot be certain what fate awaits me this time, in this life, I only wish for mother to live well. The wedding day arrived swiftly. As it was no glorious occasion, the Meng household refrained from grand celebrations. On the day itself, I was quietly carried into the palace in a soft sedan chair. I secretly lifted the curtain, watching mother's figure grow smaller as she shivered in the wind, watching the vast Ministry of Revenue mansion fade into the distance. In my previous life, Shui Yao endured constant humiliation from Meng and relentless persecution from the Meng household. But back then, the crown prince held little power. Shui Yao endured the insults, bearing the burden with caution and restraint. Later, as the crown prince grew stronger, Shui Yao gradually revealed his ruthlessness, becoming the crown prince's sharpest blade. Rumors spread that the ninth prince was sinister and merciless, his methods so brutal they could stop a child's nighttime crying. Then, the Meng household vanished. I swallowed hard, feeling a bit nervous. I was afraid that one careless mistake might earn me the future Lord 9000's enmity, costing me my life someday. That would be a wasted trip. Shui Yao's residence was in a side hall not far from the Eastern Palace, simply decorated for today. By midnight, Shui Yao still hadn't returned. A young eunuch arrived with word that Shui Yao had urgent matters to discuss with the crown prince today and would not be returning. It made sense. Everyone knew that Minister of Rites Meng belonged to the third prince's faction, locked in bitter rivalry with the crown prince's supporters. That was precisely why the emperor had issued this decree, to send a warning. Shuiyao likely harbored little affection for me, the so-called daughter of the Minister of Rites, to begin with. The next day at noon, I meticulously cleaned every corner of the house inside and out, then prepared a steaming hot meal. Suddenly, a figure slipped inside. Handsome features, tall and broad-shouldered, with phoenix-like eyes that held a faint, icy glint. His features were soft, yet they carried a hint of sharpness. Seeing that I had cleaned the house myself and prepared the meal, Shuiyao seemed somewhat surprised. He likely assumed I was an ordinary official's daughter, one whose hands never touched water. But I was merely an unloved concubine's daughter, who had served my mother for years and was well accustomed to such chores. Last night, the Crown Prince had urgent matters to discuss with me, leaving me unable to attend. I deeply regret keeping you waiting all night, madam. Please forgive my absence. Shuiyao gave me a slight nod. His voice was warm, his manners impeccable. Yet I keenly detected a fleeting hint of annoyance. For the next half-month, my relationship with Shuiyao showed no progress. We were like strangers under the same roof, each minding their own business. Suddenly, I recalled hearing in my previous life that His Highness, though ruthless, had a sweet tooth, particularly for osmanthus cakes. So I tried to cater to his tastes, placing a small plate of soft, sweet osmanthus cakes on his desk each day. The cakes never went missing. But they made me gain a whole circle of weight. A few days ago, the faction led by my father, the third prince, began stirring up trouble in the imperial court again. Word spread that Meng had been betrothed to the son of the chancellor, and everyone expressed their envy. Everyone also knew that the third prince's influence had grown stronger. Shui Wang's gaze toward me grew more guarded, his expression even more distant. Ugh, at this rate, we probably won't escape the fate of having our entire family wiped out. Today, an unexpected guest arrived. Meng surveyed the humble room, wrinkling her nose in disgust, her face beaming with smug satisfaction. Meng Yan, tell me, how is it that we, both born to concubines, live such vastly different lives? The man you married. Well, just mentioning his name brings shame upon the Meng household. Whereas my future husband is a dragon among men. Serving the third prince, his prospects are limitless. Huh? When it comes to prospects, who could rival the all-powerful ninth prince? With that kind of judgment, no wonder you never found happiness in your past life. Don't underestimate Shui. My husband. Never underestimate a young man's potential. We'll see who ends up more noble in the future. Seeing her smugness, I couldn't help but retort. Meng laughed as if she'd heard the funniest joke in the world, rocking back and forth for a long while. Then she eyed me up and down like I was an idiot, sneering. You must have gone daft from living like a widow. Yum? That Shuiyao isn't even a real man. A mere eunuch who can't satisfy your most basic needs, and you're still dreaming? Seeing her mock Shuiyao over this, a surge of anger welled up inside me. What's wrong with being a eunuch? Did he choose this life? Sima Qian endured castration to write the records of the grand historian. He sailed the 7 seas as Grand Eunuch Sanbao, spreading our nation's glory. Those with grand ambitions can achieve greatness. How dare you look down on someone for this? My anger grew with each word, and before I knew it, my mouth had outpaced my brain. Besides, who says he can't satisfy me? You don't know, little sister. I revel in pleasure night after night, I'm perfectly satisfied. Shuiyao cherishes me far more than any ordinary man. Meng Yuru's gaze shifted toward me. Or rather, toward the space behind me. I slowly turned my head. Shuiyao stood leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, watching me with a faint, ambiguous smile. I wanted to die. A wave of heat surged up my face, making it feel like it was on fire. That night, Shuiyao didn't stay in the study as usual. Instead, he came to the bedroom. Amidst the flickering candlelight, Shuiyao approached step by step, his narrowed eyes seeming to swirl with desire. One hand undid the jade sash at his waist, while the other slid onto my waist. His cool lips brushed against my earlobe, lingering and teasing. Madam, it seems. We have yet to consummate our marriage. I wonder how you intend to satisfy yourself. My entire body trembled, and I instinctively took a small step back. But a stronger force pulled me back, slamming me against Shuiyao's hot, solid chest. His breath, fresh as mountain springs yet tinged with desire, filled my nostrils. I tilted my head back slightly, meeting Shui Yao's deep, intense gaze. Our eyes locked, our breaths mingling. His gaze lingered on my face, his expression suggestive. I couldn't help but tremble. In my past life, romance eluded me. Several marriages my father tried to arrange always fell through inexplicably. Marriage was out of the question. I'd never even had any experience with men. Thus, I had no idea how to handle this situation. Feeling overwhelmed, I simply closed my eyes. Unintentionally, my body stiffened rigidly. Perhaps sensing my unease, Shui Yao slowed his movements, his fingers pausing midair as he worked to unbutton my collar. After waiting a while with no further action, I cautiously lifted one eyelid. Just then, I caught a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. Ah! I understood. I couldn't help but glance at Shui Yao's lower body, my expression suddenly clear. Seeing my gaze suddenly shift downward, Shui Yao followed it with a glance, his expression seeming to stiffen. Noticing his unusual look, I thought for a moment, then raised my hand to pat his shoulder reassuringly. It's fine, it's fine. Shui Yao closed his eyes briefly and took a deep breath. For some reason, he looked almost gritted teeth determined. Before I could figure out what was happening, I felt myself go light as a feather, swept up in his arms. He tossed me onto the bed, then pounced on top of me, kissing me fiercely. I gradually felt the air being squeezed from me, gasping slightly. Suddenly, a sharp, high-pitched voice rang out from outside. "Young Supervisor Shui, the Crown Prince requests your immediate presence at the Eastern Palace." It sounded like one of the Crown Prince's eunuchs, his tone urgent. Shui Yao paused, then swiftly rolled off the bed. He smoothed his robe slightly, told me to sleep on my own, and hurried out the door. Sure enough, Shui Yao never returned before I fell asleep. Early the next morning, I caught wind of the news. Last night, treasonous writings were discovered during a search of the residence of Kong Yichang, the Grand Tutor to the Crown Prince. The septuagenarian Grand Tutor Kong was arrested overnight and thrown into prison. This Grand Tutor was not only the Crown Prince's teacher but also the elder whom Shui Yao respected most deeply. In my previous life, Grand Tutor Kong died suddenly of illness shortly after his imprisonment. This debt would be fiercely recorded by Shui Yao against the Meng household. For the one who led the search of the residence and arrested Grand Tutor Kong was none other than my father, Meng Fei. It was 2 days later when I saw Shui Yao again. He returned dusty and weary, his brow heavy with exhaustion, his frame noticeably thinner. I reached out to take his cloak. He paused abruptly, seemingly avoiding my hand without intent, and hung the cloak himself. The wariness and distance in his eyes were even more pronounced than before. I let out a soft sigh. Truthfully, Shui Yao might not truly believe I was involved in this turmoil. But concerning my revered teacher, however rational he might be, it was difficult for him to treat me, the daughter of his enemy, with ordinary regard. And for the time being, I could not prove my innocence. I could only behave as I always had, quietly and diligently carrying out my duties. I hoped that when Shui Yao became the 9,000 years, his thunderous wrath would not spill over to my mother and me. Over the next few days, Shui Yao continued his routine of leaving early and returning late, constantly shuttling between various places. Yet the situation showed no improvement, and Shui Yao's expression grew darker day by day. The adversary was like a slick, venomous snake, cunning beyond measure. It struck suddenly, then retreated entirely, lurking in the shadows, flaring its tongue, waiting for the next opening to strike. These past 2 days, the emperor's health had deteriorated, and the crown prince attended to him daily. The Eastern Palace was temporarily off limits. Shui Yao summoned several close court officials to his study for counsel. Among them, I recognized a vaguely familiar face. It was Zhao Ning, the prized pupil of Grand Tutor Kong, the top scholar of the imperial examination that year, now a compiler in the Hanlin Academy. In my previous life, due to mother's frail health, I often tended to her until she fell asleep before returning to my own quarters. Passing my father's study, I would occasionally encounter cautious visitors arriving late at night. Zhao Ning was one of them. But if he was so close to my father, why would he be associating with Shui Yao? Was Zhao Ning truly my father's spy, or merely Shui Yao's pawn? Doubts stirred within me, and I couldn't help but ponder further. What if this entire affair was Zhao Ning's doing? I glanced toward the study, wondering if Shui Yao would believe my one-sided account. After night fell, I listened intently for sounds. Once the group dispersed, I took a deep breath and pushed open the study door. Shui Yao looked slightly surprised to see me seeking him out so suddenly. After all, we'd barely exchanged a word these past days. After hearing my account of Zhao Ning, Shui Yao's composed expression shifted. His voice grew hoarse as he gritted his teeth, questioning me word by word. Meng Fei betrayed us, causing my revered master to suffer unjust imprisonment. Zhao Ning is my senior brother, bound to me by years of shared discipleship. Why should I trust you, Meng Fei's daughter? Two piercing gazes, as cold as ice, bore into my face, radiating a bone-chilling chill. A shiver ran through me, but I forced myself to steady my nerves. Whether you choose to believe me or not, I have merely recounted what I witnessed truthfully. I know you have your own means to verify its truth. I paused briefly before continuing. Though I am a daughter of the Meng family, I am also the wife of the Shui family. As husband and wife, we share in each other's glory and suffering. I have no reason to deceive you. Shui Yao remained silent, his brows slightly furrowed as he pondered something. Having said all I needed, I pushed open the door to leave. Suddenly, I caught sight of the moon, round and luminous like a jade disk, hanging in the night sky. I realized with a start that the Mid-Autumn Festival was only 3 days away. My step halted mid-motion. Steeling myself, I met Shui Yao's impatient gaze. There is one more thing. Before I knew it, the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival arrived. These past 2 days, Shui Yao remained as busy as ever, his figure nowhere to be seen. In my previous life, Grand Tutor Kong had fallen gravely ill on this very night, passing away suddenly. By the time he was discovered the next day, it was already too late. The sun was nearly set, and a hazy layer of night began to spread across the horizon. Still no sign of Shui Yao. My heart couldn't help but feel anxious. Though I had hinted at it that day, Shui Yao's attitude remained ambiguous. If his unwillingness to believe me caused the tragedy of Grand Tutor Kong in this lifetime, then it would be none of my concern. Though I thought this, unease still gnawed at my heart. The sky grew darker. If I didn't move soon, I feared I wouldn't even reach the body before it grew cold. Sigh. Gritting my teeth, I grabbed the food box I'd prepared earlier and hurried toward the Ministry of Justice. The damp, gloomy prison cell was dimly lit, radiating a bone-chilling cold. After slipping some silver to the jailer, I easily found Grand Tutor Kong's cell. The aged tutor, having endured imprisonment, seemed to have aged considerably more. His clothes were ragged, his complexion pale, and his hair disheveled. The once mighty Grand Tutor now lay trampled beneath others' feet. All this was due to my father, and a pang of guilt stirred within me. Seeing a stranger, Grand Tutor Kong paused, his eyes flashing with wariness. I hastily revealed my identity. Upon learning I was Shui Yao's wife, his gaze gradually softened. Time was of the essence. I cut straight to the point, explaining my purpose to Grand Tutor Kong and subtly warning him to guard against Zhao Ning. After listening to my words, Grand Tutor Kong pondered for a moment before murmuring thoughtfully. Are you suggesting my student disregarded moral duty, conspiring with outsiders to plot against his own teacher? Miss Meng, it's not that I distrust you, but do you have evidence to support this? The old gentleman's tone was far gentler than I'd anticipated, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I don't have proof now, but if you trust me, tonight will reveal the truth. Before long, Zhao Ning hurried over carrying a lunchbox. He sat cross-legged on the ground, unpacking several dishes and a jug of wine, intending to share a drink with the Grand Tutor. I quickly emerged from the shadows, stepping forward decisively to halt Zhao Ning's actions. Miss Meng? What do you mean by this? Zhao Ning looked surprised to see me there. Please forgive me, young Master Zhao. My husband instructed me to watch over Grand Tutor Kong tonight. I'm afraid I must inspect these foods. I had no other choice but to invoke Shui Yao's authority, offering a perfunctory bow in apology. A fleeting flicker of unease crossed Zhao Ning's face before he composed himself, replying with feigned resignation. Very well. If it will ease Brother Shui's mind, then examine them. Yet when I drew out my silver needles and meticulously tested the wine and dishes multiple times, I found nothing amiss. Now, Miss Meng, you can rest assured, can't you? How could this be? I must have missed something. Beads of sweat formed on my forehead, yet my hands refused to stop moving, needling the perfectly good dishes to pieces. Enough. Miss Meng, you may return now. I appreciate your kindness. Grand Tutor Kong, seeing my fruitless efforts yet refusal to give up, grew cold and issued a curt dismissal. Zhao Ning watched me with a smile, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he gestured for us to leave. My wife has been discourteous. Please forgive her, Master and Brother Zhao. Shui Yao stepped out of the shadows and hurried forward. When had he arrived? I turned my head to look at him, whom I hadn't seen in days, and froze in surprise. Shui Yao took the silver needle from my hand and held it above a platter of fish marinated in huadiao wine. Madam, you missed this spot. I've already inspected this platter. There's nothing amiss. Shui Yao's lips curved slightly. With a swift flick of his wrist, the needle landed precisely, standing upright in the fish's eye. The needle turned pitch black at a visible speed. Zhao Ning's eyes widened abruptly, all color draining from his face. Take him away. Interrogate him thoroughly. Shui Yao fixed Zhao Ning with a piercing, terrifying stare, enunciating each word with deliberate precision. A squad filed out, dragging the limp Zhao Ning into the darkness. In the lightless dungeon, Shui Yao stood with hands clasped behind his back, his expression icy. A murderous aura radiated from him, as if Yama himself had returned to Earth. Zhao Ning was a weakling. After enduring only a few tortures, he confessed everything. He had planted the treasonous items in Grand Tutor Kong's residence. He had also poisoned the huadiao fish eyes. Only his fellow disciples knew that Grand Tutor Kong had always relished fish eyes. Zhao Ning had long since boarded the third prince's treacherous ship, yet Shui Yao and the others, blinded by old camaraderie, never suspected him. This lifetime, Grand Tutor Kong's wrongs were finally cleared, rewriting his fate of dying in bitterness. Shui Yao's attitude toward me underwent a complete reversal. Gone was his elusive, dragon-like demeanor. He returned daily for meals and spent nights in the bedroom. Several times he reached out to embrace me, but I always slipped away, feigning exhaustion. Though my reason told me it was wrong, the bitterness of his past suspicion lingered. I felt a quiet resentment. On the Crown Prince's birthday, Shui Yao attended the banquet at the Eastern Palace and was late returning. I assumed he wouldn't return tonight and went to bed first. Half asleep, I suddenly felt hands caressing my waist, large palms wandering over my body. I jolted awake, all sleepiness gone, about to struggle free. My lady, it's me. Shui Yao's voice was hoarse, his breath slightly uneven. His warm, alcohol-tinged breath brushed against my ear, sending shivers down my spine. I tried to roll away, but Shui Yao's hands clasped my waist tightly, and he sighed softly. I know you still resent me. The Grand Tutor's case. I shouldn't have doubted you without cause. It was my fault. I misunderstood you. Your resentment is what I deserve. Shui Yao straightened my body, propping himself above me with his arms, staring intently. My lady. Would you forgive your husband this once? I was never one to hold a grudge, what mattered was his attitude. Since he'd apologized properly, I wasn't one to be unreasonable. Get off me. I forgive you. I muttered under my breath, lowering my eyes to avoid his scorching gaze. Shui Yao paused, his cool fingertips cupping my chin. He leaned down, and his warm lips pressed against mine. My lady is so kind. My misunderstanding of you has been cleared, but yours of me remains unresolved. Misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? His words left me utterly bewildered. But there was no time to ponder. Shui Yao, like a wolf starved for days, devoured my lips with fierce, relentless passion. That night, he demanded me tirelessly, over and over. Fragmented moans of pleasure rippled through the long night, painting boundless springtime hues. Shui Yao dispelled my misunderstanding completely through his actions. When I awoke the next morning, my body felt like it had been dismantled. The slightest movement sent waves of aching pain through me. Shui Yao was leaning casually nearby. Seeing me awake, the corners of his mouth lifted involuntarily. He pulled me into his embrace, massaging my waist as he shared a secret. It turned out Shui Yao was the sole surviving son of the late General Xuanwu. Decades ago, General Xuanwu had fought tirelessly for our dynasty, earning great military merits as a staunch supporter of the crown prince. Back then, the current emperor was merely the obscure second prince. Ambitious and cunning, he bided his time for years before staging a coup. In that palace upheaval, the crown prince was slain, the late emperor imprisoned, and the crown prince's faction utterly annihilated. Yet the late emperor, unwilling to see his loyal general's line extinguished, secretly sent men to rescue the infant Shui Yao. He entrusted the child to a eunuch surnamed Ma, who owed the general a debt of gratitude. Thus, Shui Yao narrowly escaped death. When I was 6, I accidentally offended the third prince and was punished by kneeling in the freezing winter snow. As I lay dying, the crown prince happened to pass by and saved my life. From that moment on, I resolved to remain loyal to the crown prince. Even during his darkest days, I never once considered abandoning him. His tone was matter-of-fact as he recounted another's story. In his previous life, Shui Yao ultimately attained supreme glory and enjoyed boundless splendor. Public opinion of Shui Yao declared, a youth of exceptional vision, skilled in choosing a wise sovereign to serve. Yet the bitterness and suffering remained unknown. But how could such a crucial secret be revealed to me so easily? If I were merely a pawn in father's game, and I were to expose the secret to the emperor, would Shui Yao have any chance of survival? At this thought, I stole a glance at Shui Yao, his expression filled with words left unsaid. He frowned slightly, a smile lingering on his lips. His long fingers gently stroked my hair as his voice softened. As you said, trust is paramount between husband and wife. Henceforth, I entrust my deepest secret to you. I remained silent for a long moment, gazing at his tender expression. My heart warmed like the gentle spring breeze of March. Shui Yao explained that in recent years, both the late emperor and eunuch Ma had passed away. Now, aside from him, only the crown prince and I knew the secret. But learning this secret naturally came with a price. Knowing he was in the wrong, Shui Yao would always return from duty each day, smiling as he brought osmanthus cakes from Rongxingjai to make amends. Yet he persisted. These past few days, Shui Yao had picked up some new, blush-inducing tricks from who knows where. Recalling the gleam of excitement in his eyes last night, I shook my head with a wry smile. Somehow, I too felt bewitched, allowing him to carry on this way. It wasn't that I hadn't protested. But each time, I couldn't resist Shui Yao's lowered lashes and soft, pleading voice, coaxing and cajoling me into submission. Ah! Truly, beauty clouds the mind. I rubbed my wrist and climbed to my feet, intending to fetch some ointment. My gaze swept over a cold gleam on the floor. It was that dagger. Shui Yao must have tossed it aside after using it last night, and in his haste to leave today, he'd forgotten to pick it up. This dagger was usually concealed within Shui Yao's official boots, kept for emergencies. In my past life, the crown prince had been attacked at the Empress Dowager's chrysanthemum banquet. It was with this very dagger that Shui Yao slew the assassin and saved the crown prince's life. Ah, right, last night, amidst our intimate moments, Shui Yao had mentioned he wouldn't be back for lunch today. Could it be? He was attending a banquet? Yes. The chrysanthemum banquet. Gazing at the sun climbing higher outside the window, my mind went blank in an instant, my back drenched in cold sweat. If the crown prince were to meet with misfortune, I dared not dwell on the thought. Frantically pulling on my outer robe, I concealed the dagger at my waist and hurried toward the palace of eternal life. I finally arrived just before the banquet commenced. But the guards stationed at the palace gates, seeing I had no invitation, resolutely refused entry. Gentlemen, might you grant me a favor? Allow me to deliver something inside. Or, perhaps you could inform Junior Supervisor Xue for me? I'll wait for him at the gate. No matter how much I pleaded, the two guards merely waved me off, their faces cold and indifferent, refusing to acknowledge me further. Ian, what are you doing here? My father, arriving for the banquet, stood before me. His face was dark and stormy, his gaze scrutinizing my features. I knew this was unwise, but gritting my teeth, I bowed to him, grasping at straws. I have urgent business with Lord Xue. Might father kindly inform him I await him here? Absurd. This is no place for you. Return at once. Father's brows knitted tightly. With a low rebuke, he strode away. Just as I had anticipated. The crowd inside grew thicker by the moment. The banquet was about to begin. My heart raced, beads of sweat forming on my forehead. "Lady Shui?" A trembling voice called from behind me. I turned, my eyes brightening as excitement surged through me, my voice thick with emotion. "Grand Tutor Kong." The trajectory of fate mirrored my previous life exactly. Sure enough, an assassination attempt on the crown prince occurred during the banquet, and sure enough, Shui Yao saved him. Fortunately, I encountered Grand Tutor Kong. Otherwise, in this life, I would be guilty of a crime deserving death. That night, Shui Yao held me close on the bed, whispering softly, "If not for you today, the crown prince and I would likely have fallen to those assassins." Who could have imagined the Empress Dowager's attendants had been replaced by death squads? I bit my lip lightly, a wave of dread washing over me. I had nearly brought ruin upon him. Shui Yao tightened his arms around me, resting his chin on my head. "The third prince seems increasingly restless. Things are bound to get busy from here on out. I won't be able to spend as much time with you as before. Don't be upset." I nodded hastily. "It's only right." Seeing my immediate agreement, Shui Yao paused, a hint of dissatisfaction creeping into his voice, tinged with a touch of resentment. "I knew it. You don't care about my company at all. Why should I bother? Even if I exhaust myself, no one will care." My lips twitched, and a headache came over me. This man, so formidable in the outside world, could sulk like a child when upset. It took me ages to coax him back to sleep, using every sweet word in my vocabulary and even trying some new tricks to amuse him. Only then did he finally drift off, satisfied. But Shui Yao wasn't exaggerating. After that day, he reverted to being the perpetually busy Shui Yao. Sometimes I'd wake in the middle of the night to find an extra person in bed, other times, he wouldn't return for several nights straight. Tensions between the two factions were already at a breaking point. Every few days, news would surface of another minister falling from grace. The court was filled with a palpable sense of dread, the air thick with tension. This was for the best. Let bridges be bridges, roads be roads, let everything follow the path of past lives. Just as I prayed for smooth sailing, Meng, whom I hadn't seen in ages, came knocking. Now married, Meng wore jewels in her hair, her eyes and brows carrying an added sharpness. "I hear you're getting along quite well with that scholarly supervisor Shui?" She scrutinized me from head to toe, her eyes darting about, her tone laced with a hint of mockery. I lifted my teacup, blew on the floating tea leaves, and lowered my gaze without speaking. I couldn't fathom what she was up to. Father was indeed right, but you'd best not forget your place. Mengiru's smile vanished, her voice turning icy as she flung a letter and a silk pouch onto the table. I opened the envelope. Father's handwriting covered the paper, the message simple. He wanted me to find an opportunity to poison Shui Yao. The silk pouch contained a packet of powder and a hairpin I'd given Mother when I was 10. But it had been snapped in two. My heart raced wildly, my fingers turning slightly white as I clutched the hairpin. Mengiru watched me finish reading the letter, then reached out to take it. "Hand it over once you're done. I must destroy it." I snapped back to my senses, steadied my nerves with effort, and spoke calmly. "Third sister, rest assured. I will handle this matter myself, but I must trouble you to take this pouch away first." Meeting Mengiru's puzzled gaze, I chose my words carefully, my expression earnest. "First, Shui Yao has scarcely returned home for meals lately, leaving me no opportunity to act. Second, should anything happen to Shui Yao at home, I would be the first suspect. You must understand, since the last assassination attempt, Shui Yao has grown even more suspicious of me. He knows every visitor who enters his quarters and every new item that appears. One careless move, and I fear I might drag you into this. The day after tomorrow is the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. All the court officials and their families will be present. You can give me the item then. I'll find an opportunity to slip it into Shui Yao's food. It won't implicate our Meng household. What do you think?" Mengiru hesitated for a moment, biting her lip as she pondered. She seemed to find some logic in my words. "Then so be it." I breathed a silent sigh of relief. The Meng household had assigned me as the blade for this murder, clearly treating me as a disposable pawn. Success would surely mean my death. But with mother still trapped in the mansion, I had no choice but to play along. Fortunately, Meng was simple-minded, leaving room to maneuver. The most urgent task now was to contact Shui Yao. If he didn't return tonight, I'd have to go out searching for him tomorrow. But doing so might alert the Meng household. This dilemma kept me tossing and turning until late at night. As I finally succumbed to exhaustion and prepared to sleep, familiar footsteps sounded outside the door. My heart leapt with relief. Shui Yao had returned. Before I knew it, the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet arrived. Shortly after taking my seat, I spotted Meng standing by a nearby pillar, repeatedly signaling to me. My heart skipped a beat. Taking a deep breath, I raised my wine cup and walked toward her. "Why did you take so long?" Meng whispered, her tone tinged with slight reproach. She glanced around frantically, her face frozen in a forced smile. "Forgive me, third sister. These past 2 days, I've gathered evidence incriminating Shui Yao. This is crucial. You must personally deliver it to father for me." I pulled a letter from my bosom and solemnly placed it in Meng hand. "Understood. Come closer, it's in my sleeve. Be discreet." Meng grew impatient, whispering urgently. As she took the letter, I immediately lifted my gaze toward Shui Yao and flung my wine glass, shattering it. With a sharp clatter, several guards instantly appeared, surrounding Meng and swiftly searching her. They found a pouch of powdered medicine and a letter. Shui Yao had appeared beside me at some point, his voice deep and stern. "You audacious Meng You dared attempt to harm the crown prince. Now caught red-handed with the evidence, do you know your crime?" Meng pupils contracted sharply, her face turning pale. In her panic, she screamed in defense. "I didn't intend to kill the crown prince. I meant to kill." Realizing she had nearly slipped up, she immediately fell silent, not daring to lift her head. Suddenly, as if realizing something, Meng jerked her head up, fixing me with a deathly stare. "Meng Yan, you set me up." Shui Yao stepped impassively in front of me. "Guards! Take her away. Await her sentence." The letter was presented to the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. It instructed Meng to poison the crown prince today. It bore Meng Fei's handwriting. The Empress Dowager, already in a foul mood from the disrupted birthday banquet, nearly fainted upon learning someone had attempted to harm her beloved grandson. The Emperor, terrified, summoned the imperial physicians. Yet, recalling Meng Fei's past intrigues during the previous dynasty, his anger flared. He immediately ordered the arrest of Meng Fei and all relevant individuals in his household, directing the Ministry of Justice to conduct a thorough interrogation. The Meng residence ultimately could not escape its impending collapse, arriving even sooner than in my previous life. As the informant credited with this achievement, I naturally remained untouched. No one could have imagined that I, who had served by my mother's bedside since childhood, often passed the time copying calligraphy practice sheets. In my mother's bedroom lay a chest, its contents entirely letters written to her by a young Meng Fei. Meng Fei possessed exquisite handwriting, and I had mastered his style to perfection. Several days later, Shui Yao spoke mysteriously, insisting on taking me somewhere. The carriage jolted along for a long time, winding through alley after alley, before finally stopping before a secluded courtyard. From afar, I spotted a familiar figure in a wicker chair beneath a tree. I could scarcely believe my eyes. Taking a few more steps closer, my eyes stung with tears. I immediately broke into a run, rushing forward without a second thought. I threw my arms around that person, so overcome with joy I wept. Mother stood frozen for a moment, tears welling in her eyes. Her frail frame clutched me tightly, as if holding a treasure long lost and now regained. When the Meng household faced trouble, Mother was implicated. Shui Yao took advantage of the situation. He arranged for Mother, under the pretext of poor health, to die in prison. For days, I'd been sleepless over Mother's fate, but Shui Yao kept telling me to stay calm. Though I sensed Mother would be fine, I never imagined such a joyous surprise. Through the mist in my eyes, I looked at Shui Yao beside me, smiling at me. My heart overflowed with happiness, beyond control. All the fortune I lacked in my past life must have accumulated for this one. Mother led me into the bedroom, sat me down, took my hand, and gazed deeply into my eyes. Ever since your marriage, I've regretted it day and night, fearing this union would ruin you. Though Shui Yao treats you well, he is not an ordinary man. If you regret it, I'll beg him. I'll work myself to the bone for him, anything to make him let you go. Mother's eyes glistened with tears. Her voice trembled yet remained resolute, as if she'd summoned immense courage. My nose stung, and I quickly clasped her hand tightly. Mother, don't worry. I truly love him. He's a good man. Besides him, I don't want to marry anyone else. Though Mother seemed puzzled, seeing my resolve and glancing at Shui Yao standing tall and graceful in the courtyard, her expression gradually softened. Very well. If Ner is certain, so be it. On the carriage ride back, Shui Yao was in high spirits, smiling and studying me intently the whole way. His gaze made me squirm uncomfortably, and I was about to ask what was wrong. Suddenly, a strong pull yanked me into his embrace, and a teasing voice whispered in my ear. Truly, madam, you wouldn't marry anyone but me? My heart skipped a beat, and my face flushed crimson. I shook my head, refusing to admit it. Shui Yao leaned in to kiss me, insisting I repeat those words. I tried to break free, but he seized my wrist, flipped me over, and pinned me beneath him. A low chuckle escaped his lips. Disobedience deserves punishment. Wheels rolled steadily, curtains swayed gently. The alleyways were filled with the warm embrace of spring. With the Meng household's downfall, the third prince lost a major ally and grew increasingly listless, while the crown prince's faction gradually loosened their restraints. Shui Yao shuttled between the imperial court and the harem, busy eliminating rivals. The crown prince, too, displayed extraordinary talent in governing the realm. The emperor, frail with illness and advancing age, became obsessed with elixirs, spending his days seeking immortality and mystical arts. Within half a year, he ascended to the heavens. The crown prince ascended the throne without incident. Shui Yao, as in my past life, became the dreaded 9,000 years, a name that sent shivers down spines. Yet toward me, he remained as tender as ever. Whenever Shui Yao was in a foul mood or had unpleasant news to deliver, the sharp-eyed palace eunuchs would glance at me knowingly, hinting for me to speak on their behalf. The status of the 9,000 years consort seemed even more exalted than that of the official consorts. Yet a recent incident had occurred, and this current status no longer satisfied me. At night, my mind heavy with worry, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Ner? Shui Yao called tentatively, leaning over to look at me. Husband. Have you ever thought about restoring your identity? After much hesitation, I finally spoke. Shui Yao pondered seriously. There's no rush. Some matters are easier to handle with our current status. Are you anxious, my lady? Don't wish to be the eunuch's wife anymore, is that it? Shui Yao pinched my cheek playfully. I'm not anxious. I tugged at the quilt corner, my voice growing faint and hesitant. I just fear the baby can't wait. After a long pause, Shui Yao suddenly sat upright, his voice rising 8 octaves in sheer delight. What? For a long time afterward, rumors swirled throughout the palace that His Excellency had been bewitched. The man who never smiled now wore a perpetual twinkle in his eyes and a gentle curve to his lips. Even during interrogations, he maintained a serene smile. The prisoners nearly wept with fright, confessing far more readily. Hearing this rumor, I lowered my head to stroke my gradually swelling belly, a small smile touching my lips. Outside the window, spring light streamed in, flowers blooming like brocade. Everything was beautiful, just like the days of this lifetime. The end. Extra chapter. Shui Yao's dream. On the day Shui Yao regained his identity, the emperor, with a flourish of his brush, bestowed upon him the title of Duke of the State and granted him a duke's mansion. At last, he could provide his wife and child with a legitimate home. Overjoyed, Shui Yao drank heavily at the housewarming banquet. That night, he had a dream. Shui Yao found himself back on their wedding night. He remembered not returning to the bridal chamber that evening, leaving his wife alone all night. Somehow, heaven had granted him a second chance? Ignoring the mockery in the crown prince's eyes, he strode swiftly back to their quarters. But why was Meng the one dressed in red? Shui Yao froze, his breathing becoming labored. Even the vile words Meng spat into his ear seemed to pass him by. This wasn't right. Where was his honor? Meng was spoiled and insolent, her heart as venomous as could be, nothing like his gentle honor. Chaos erupted within Shui Yao. Where had he gone wrong? He sent spies to investigate and learned that Meng Yan still resided in the minister's mansion, an unwelcome illegitimate daughter. But her mother was gone, for reasons unknown. How heartbroken she must be. Shui Yao's heart ached in waves. The world seemed the same, yet somehow different. Grand Tutor Kong had been unjustly imprisoned. On the Mid-Autumn Festival night, he had captured Zhao Ning, yet he would never again see her frantic figure testing poisons. This time, he did not execute Zhao Ning. Instead, he took her family hostage, forcing her to serve him. Externally, he announced the Grand Tutor had died suddenly of illness, dispelling suspicion from the Third Prince's faction. In truth, he harbored a hidden agenda. Honor had once mentioned seeing Zhao Ning interacting with Meng Fei. He therefore ordered Zhao Ning to maintain contact with Meng Fei, occasionally informing him of Honor's condition. When he heard Meng Fei intended to arrange a marriage for Honor, he repeatedly sabotaged the plans. How could his wife be given to another man? This time, Shui Yao ruthlessly crushed the Third Prince's faction. He seized upon every minor or major misstep, clinging to them relentlessly like a mad dog. His cruelty and ruthlessness earned him a fearsome reputation. The Crown Prince urged him to ease up, warning that overdoing it could backfire and suggesting a more measured approach. But Shui Yao felt that unless he acted swiftly, Honor would not wait for him. The Empress Dowager's birthday banquet approached. Shui Yao stroked the dagger in his hand, thinking of the sash he had severed. Closing his eyes, a dull ache pierced his heart. He longed for her beyond words. Once, he went to Rongxing and bought her favorite osmanthus cakes. He never understood why she loved such sweet, sticky treats. He took a bite, it was distinctly bitter. Yet he still bought them from time to time, leaving them in the room. What if, one day, she just appeared? Later, the Third Prince was defeated, and the Meng family was destroyed. The Crown Prince demanded the entire Meng household be executed. His heart clenched, and he couldn't help but speak up. Exile the women instead. On the day of the verdict, he was overcome with emotion. He had already planned to personally escort her back, to give her a new identity. He needed to think carefully about how to broach the subject without frightening her. But why? Why was a cold, lifeless body waiting for him? Soldiers escorted Zhao Ning forward. Zhao Ning's face contorted, his bloodshot eyes glaring as he spat out hatefully. Meng Fei discovered my affair with you and slaughtered my wife and children. Now you shall taste the agony of losing your beloved. Shui Yao's heart plummeted relentlessly, falling into an abyss of despair. A roaring sound filled his ears as the world spun violently. His hands trembled uncontrollably, his legs felt as heavy as lead. The steps that had once been light and swift now refused to move forward. Moments later, he collapsed straight onto the ground. Shui Yao jolted awake in the darkness. He gasped for breath, his hand pressed against his chest, the pain still unbearable. Husband? A familiar voice sounded from behind him. Shui Yao's entire body trembled. He spun around and pulled the sleepy-eyed figure into his arms, clutching her tightly as if he could press her into his very bones. Ouch! Be gentle. You'll crush the baby. Tears welled up in Shui Yao's eyes again. He loosened his grip slightly, then lowered his head to kiss her urgently. Though the woman in his arms hadn't grasped the situation, she responded by wrapping her arms around him and offering her soft lips. As Shui Yao kissed his wife, he secretly freed one hand to pinch his thigh. Ouch! Not a dream. He was still the happiest man in the mortal world. So good. The story ends here. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next chapter.